Hi, Dr. Parul. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to be covering stress and how to deal with it. But just before we start, I'd like to quickly introduce you. You're a psychiatrist with more than 30 years of experience whose practice focuses on positive psychology and holistic therapy through REBT and meditation. Am I correct?
Very good. Perfect. It's
Amazing. So, very quickly, I'd like to just dive straight into what we're covering today and start with, what exactly is stress?
hmm, I know. So stress is really a much bandied word in today's world. All the time we are thinking about stress and we are hearing words like, oh, I'm so stressed out and how will I ever deal with this stress? And I don't know how to handle this stress. And day in, day out, the word stress is being bandied around. So to say in a few words, stress is the body's physical and mental reaction to a challenge or to a threat. And this stress is manifested, as I said, in the physical, in our body, through physical symptoms and through mental manifestation. Stress actually is something that is coming on from the prehistoric times. It's a response that our ancestors really needed to survive. It's more like a survival instinct. Yeah. So, say for example, our ancestor met a predator like a tiger suddenly. Then the body produces stress. The response is of stress, wherein the body tenses up. There is more blood supply because the heart pumps faster, and there's more oxygen because you breathe heavier, and the body, there's more glucose going to the muscles, to the brain, becomes very alert and focused. So the response that it elicits in the terms that we understand is of fright. So that's the initial thing, the fright. And then there is an instinct either to fight or run away. That's flight. So that's the response, and that was necessary for survival. But
Right.
in today's modern world, we see everything as a challenge, everything, a lot of thing as a threat. And that's why our bodies react with this stress response, which sometimes
Much
produces a
more.
chronic
Right. So,
more than.
just to make sure I've understood this correctly, our body's reaction to stress is that we become much more alert. Our heart starts racing, sweatiness,
Yes,
and
there
this
is there is trembling. Yeah. Mhm.
and
Go
this used
on.
to be like a survival response that people had, but now because of the way the world is shaped, it's kind of like happening almost as a result of most, it's like a reaction to most actions now, one could say.
So, right. So, in fact, even though this has been going on from prehistoric times, the body's reaction, the stress response, there's a Dr. Hans Selye,
Hmm.
who is attributed the word stress. So, he studied his patients and he found that they had a sickness which was not relevant to their actual illness. And that sickness, he compiled the symptoms and he called it stress. So basically, the symptoms are, as you said, and as we discussed before, that in the body, you feel a kind of tightness. There's a pit in the stomach, the heart races, there's trembling inside, there might be a slight headache, all the muscles tense up. And in the mind, there is a feeling of fear, of anxiety, of being overwhelmed. There is this constant irritability, there's anger, and let me tell you, I don't know, if don't know this, that, yeah, okay, you don't know till I tell, but they've done studies and they have found that after one bout of anger, real rage type of anger, there are 5 times more possibility of getting a heart attack and 3 times more possibility of getting a stroke within 2 hours of that rage attack or that bout of anger.
Wow, that's
That's how,
terrifying, actually.
and that's how important it is for us to know, that we need to deal with stress.
But doctor, why do people feel stressed? Like not what causes it, but why today do we feel it more than we used to feel it?
Excellent question. This is the modern world. Everyone is racing. Everyone, there's this, I call it the two tumors. Okay, comparing and competing. We are constantly comparing ourselves to the next person and constantly competing with them. So this causes in us a sense of dissatisfaction, and that drive. We want to excel. We want to get better than the next one, than the other one, and that's why we exhibit so much of stress. See, all stress is not bad. In fact, we have a term in psychology that's called positive stress. Okay, so for an example, imagine you're going for an exam. Now, just before the exam, if you are so cool and chill out, I mean 2-3 days before, you won't really study or whatever. Yeah. So there needs to be a little tension about the exam, and you do get, there'll be butterflies in your stomach. There's you need that focus, you need that alertness of the mind. But once the exam is over, you're relaxed. So positive stress is when we meet a challenge with the proper stress response. Once the challenge is over, we are relaxed. But most people who complain of feeling stressed out, they are the ones who are not able to relax in between these challenges. So we call it negative. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, I was like, how do you actually differentiate between positive stress and negative stress? And a follow-up to that question would be, why do we put ourselves in situations where we actively experience negative stress?
Right. Why do human beings do what they do? Is there any answer for that? Okay. I will try to, but explain. I'll try to attempt the first one. So, how do you differentiate between positive and negative from the state of mind of the person? You will come and tell me I'm feeling stressed out, or you'll say, "Oh, I love challenges." Just throw a challenge my way, and I'll do my best, and I'll really give it all I've got. So that enthusiasm, that excitement, that will to strive to meet a challenge, that means that this person is experiencing stress, but positively. If we have negative stress, we usually manifest it in 3 ways. Like I call it the burn in, the burn out, and the burn up. So the burn in is where burn, burn, burn. Okay. So burn in is where you are slightly stressed out, little anxious, feel a constant feeling of being overwhelmed, running from one thing to another, getting irritable faster, like this kind, but still able to function really well. The burnout is when you are, completely you're feeling so overwhelmed, you're anxious, you're angry all the time, you're running like a headless chicken, one thing to another, and getting sometimes insomnia, needing caffeine to remain awake, getting addicted to things like cigarettes and caffeine, things like that. We call it the burnout. Experiencing fatigue, but still able to function. Burn up is when stress can completely, make you flat. When you go into depression, when you may get addicted to hard drugs, when you are so anxious, you're just not able to function, where you have chronic insomnia. Insomnia is basically, it's lack of sleep, inability to sleep. So chronic insomnia, just not able to sleep in the nights, So that's we're burnt up. Okay. So these are the various stages from on which where we see negative stress manifesting in people.
So, just out of curiosity, then, can a person control their mannerisms, their behaviorisms before they get to a situation where it kind of gets out of control and, you know, manage their performance, their internal, external surroundings so that they don't get to the point where they're like burning up?
Excellent. Of course they do. That is because that is how we are. We are humans, right? We have something here that helps us deal with all this. So we may make our own problems, but we do find our solutions. So, let me tell you how we deal with stress. But before I tell you that, there's another way of understanding stress. So basically, I will put it this way, that we all have our expectations. We have expectations out of life, out of our job, out of our family, out of our friends, out of ourselves, where we want to go, what we want to do, right? A lot of expectations. And then we have what is the actual situation, which is the reality, where there is a gap between this, right? That's a realistic gap, between what is the actual situation and what our expectations are. This gap is where we get stressed. Because of this gap is why we become stressed. And imagine ourselves as a spring. Okay, so you and I and we are the spring that connects our expectations and our reality. Okay, so to say. And if this spring is strong and if this spring is resilient, then if the gap is increased, no problem. The spring will stretch and handle it. Of course, if the gap is less, then the great. Then there's no need of any, resilience in the spring. So if we have to think of ourselves as a spring, then let us think, this spring has some parts, okay, which we need to strengthen. And what are these parts? Tell me, what are these parts? What is the part of us?
Resilience. We need to train our minds.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we don't overcommit to things.
Excellent. You're telling me the qualities. Very good. But you mentioned mind, right? Mind is one part. The other is body. We are made of our body. There's our mind. There's our brain, the computer, supercomputer. And of course, there's the heart. So by heart, I don't mean actual heart, the beating heart, but the qualities of the heart. The qualities that signify that this man has got a great heart, something like that. Okay. So of course, the mind is the boss. The mind is, as I always tell you, that the mind is a forerunner of all things. Everything comes from our mind. Yeah. But of course, this mind does need good assistants and strong assistants, so that they are our body, our brain, and our heart. So let's start with the body. Should we start with the body? Great. How do you make this body strong? Yeah. How do you strengthen this body?
You exercise, you sleep,
Excellent.
you
Yes, great.
eat.
Excellent. you can sit here. Come on.
I don't know. Those are the three I can think of.
Excellent. You stay away from drugs. You don't abuse the body. Right? So it's like a temple. Your body is like a temple. Treat it with kindness. Treat it with care. Nurture it, and it will give you good service. So you are right. Absolutely right. Sleep is very important. And the owner of Netflix, he had once commented that Netflix has only one competitor: sleep. Sleep. Sleep is a competitor of Netflix.
That's a very good point. So it's true also, I feel.
So crazy. I have patients, like डॉक्टर साहब हम रात को सोते नहीं हैं, हम टीवी सीरियल्स देखते हैं, पाकिस्तानी टीवी सीरियल्स देखते हैं, हम यूट्यूब देखते हैं, हम पिक्चर्स देखते हैं. I said, can't you do all this during the day? Anyway, because this is for the COVID times. COVID times when people are just staying at home all the time. So, but this is it, right? We need to sleep at regular hours. There's this lady called Ariana Huffington, pretty famous. Yeah, you heard of her. The editor and the owner of Huffington Post, and really sensible. So she has written this book based on her personal experience called The Sleep Revolution. And there's a study that's done which says that just 17 hours of going without sleep, it is equivalent to our brain, functioning like as though you are driving under influence. Yeah.
So that would mean that we need a minimum of 7 hours of sleep a night to
Because
function
we are not
at an optimal level.
exactly. We are not all Napoleon, right? I mean, he's rumored to have slept only for 15 minutes. We know Gandhiji slept only for 4 to 5 hours, but still, we are not all that. So each of us have our different levels of sleeping, but basically, optimally, 7 hours at least of sleep would be a good. Okay. Let's take exercise. There's so much material on exercise. I won't go wax eloquent on it, but I'll tell you one thing, being a psychiatrist, there are studies that show that just 30 minutes of exercise, 5 days a week, is equivalent to eating an antidepressant. Studies have shown that. Yes.
That's incredible, though. I feel like so many people don't truly appreciate that then.
Exactly. They don't. And there's another study, which, I mean, this is really old. People might be telling you also that exercise releases endorphins in the body. And these endorphins are the natural morphine agonists that are produced by your body. I mean, who wants drugs when you can produce your own, right?
I really like that. I think
So
it's really relevant also right now. But then I have a question. How do you make sure you sleep, eat, exercise, do these things that will help you stay, less stressed when, as individuals, and maybe I'm speaking for myself here, but more often than not, what I hear people do is either overcommit. So if you have a full-time job, you commit to like several other side projects, or if you're meeting one friend, you choose to meet five others at the same time, or you just procrastinate. Now, if you have like homework and you tell yourself, I have a week to do this homework, and you keep telling yourself that till it's like the night before and you haven't done it and you're just stressed out. So a part of me believes that, or believes would be the incorrect word, but like what I've noticed, at least about myself and friends I have, is that people function better or more efficiently when they're stressed out and they've like left things to the last minute, or they've done too much and now they have to figure everything out. So where do you think some those elements of stress really factor in, and why do they exist? Why do we do that?
why do we do that? The same question I told you. We don't know why we do things. But this is where our brain comes in, right? So if you have a problem, then you will seek the solution. One of my very favorite people, no longer alive, he was not alive when I was born too, I think, Viktor Frankl. He says that when you cannot change a situation, you are challenged to change yourself. So that's how I believe. Another phrase, Richard Bach, the one who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull, he's in his Illusions, the book Illusions, he says, you are never given a problem without also being given the solution, but you have to work for it. So That's where our brain comes in. This is what I would say strengthening the brain, right? And what do you do for strengthening the brain? So, I would say 4 A's. If you remember, there are four, these are the 4 A's. The first thing is you become aware of your problem. Where is your problem? What is the problem? Identify the problem. Be aware of it. Next, you acquire skills. You learn skills. You acquire new skills. You learn, you find out, you go listen to this lecture on Ara Health, that what to do when we are stressed out, correct? You acquire new skills. You adapt those skills to your problems, to your life, to yourself. And then if nothing, nothing seems to help you, you also should have the grace to accept it. When I was growing up, around your age, or maybe much younger than you, we had these posters, these self-help type posters, which said that one of them said, is God, or oh Lord, give me the courage to change the things I can, the serenity to accept what I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that's where your brain comes in. Okay. And there are techniques, that we can employ, which we can learn. Our brain being the computer, we do have techniques that we can employ so that we can acquire, and those skills we can apply. Okay. Like one of the techniques is, as I said, problem solution. So you learn how to address problems. You do problem solving skills. You learn problem solving skills. And I'll tell you the steps, okay, of problem solving skill. The first one is, of course, you identify the problem. You have to know what is the problem. Second step is you should know what is your goal. Because then you can tell, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, right? The third step is you set specific goals. Your main goal, I want to be there. But what you do is you set specific goals. So there is an acronym for that. It's called SMART. There's a smart way to deal with this. Do you know this? Yeah?
We actually use the SMART acronym in like product management and consulting and everything.
Very good. So that's there. So you want to say what is SMART? Should I say it?
Honestly, Doctor, I'd like for you to say it because then you can apply it to like how one should apply it to mental health, I think.
Great, I'll tell you that. So SMART, basically the S stands for specific goal setting. You identify specific goals. M stands for measurable. So whatever goals you set, you have to measure them. They should be measurable. Okay. A stands for attainable. They have to be, you have to be able to achieve them. Not like something too crazy which you can never achieve in your life. Because that can lead to depression. R stands for realistic goals. They need to be realistic. And T stands for time bound. Okay. I will like to give you an example which can incorporate this. Say, okay, let me talk about myself. Say I'm obese, okay? And I go to my doctor and he says, Parul, you just need to lose 20 kilos. Like you're really obese and you will end up with diabetes and hypertension and all the problems that come with obesity. Come on now, you need to lose 20 kgs. So I know what my problem is. I know what my goal is, lose 20 kgs. How do I apply SMART? Okay, I think of specific goal setting. So I say, okay, I can lose, say, let me try and lose 10% of my weight in 6 months. Okay? That's the specific goal that I will apply. Is it measurable? Of course, you just need a weighing scale. So I can just stand on the scale and like I'm done, right? Is it attainable? Sure it is, right? If I decide, say my goal, I say, this is too slow a process. I want to lose 20 kgs in 3 months. That's my goal. Is it attainable? Yeah, sure. If I starve myself for 3 months, maybe I will attain, 20 kgs. I'll lose 20 kgs in 3 months. But is it realistic? No, it isn't, right? Crazy. I might end up in the hospital, drips everywhere. So it's not realistic. Is it time bound? Yeah, right. But my original goal is also time bound. If I thought, I've got 10 years, 15 years to lose this weight, won't help. It won't help me. Yeah. So this is how we apply SMART to whatever. Take the problem and apply SMART. Okay. There are various problems, and then you can make the application. And then of course you decide, and then you apply the solution. You think about various solutions, just do brainstorming. I can join a Weight Watchers group, I can join a nutritionist, I can do exercise, I can join a gym, I can do swimming, I can whatever you think, 10-15 solutions, and then apply them, and then that's it, you're done. So these are problem solving skills. The second thing, I know you are looking for something, let me just finish this last second thing. Okay, so the second thing, which is a good skill to apply, is called visualization. Okay. Now, visualization is something, and that will help you in your procrastination. I know you want me to talk about procrastination. I know it. This is going to help you. Okay. So what do I mean by visualization? Now, this is a very, you must have heard of it. It's very much used in all management. It's used in sports psychology, right? It's a very common technique. But the visualization that I'm going to tell you, let me tell you a story for this first, okay? Before I tell you what I mean by the visualization I'm talking about. So this is about Michael Phelps, who is this great swimmer, broken hundreds of records, and got so many gold medals. Like I don't know if he can also count them. So many he's got. So his coach, also being a good coach, was employing this method of visualization, wherein they taught the kids, how to visualize. Like you visualize the water and you swimming in that water, and the adulation of the crowd, and then standing on the podium, having the medal in your hands. You visualize all these things. And he was preparing for the London Olympics, where he was looking to break his own record, especially in the butterfly, 100 meters butterfly. And he was 100 or 200 meters butterfly. And then he wanted of course, gold. So what happens, as I told you, the gap between your expectations and your reality, what actually happens is that as soon as he dives in the water, his swimming goggles fill up with that water completely. This man is literally blinded. He's swimming blind. And imagine yourself in Phelps' position. He's trained for it for the whole year. He visualized all his, teachers taught him to visualize all these things. And then what does he do? He can't even touch his goggles, because then that will disqualify him immediately, because the stroke is, like a butterfly. What does he do, right? And can you believe it? He swims blind. He not only wins the race, he breaks his own record. And do you know how he did it? His teacher, after the words, they asked him, listen, I had not taught you. What did you do? How did you do? We were not visualized. We never visualized this. So he says, we didn't visualize, but I did. So he used to visualize this, that suppose this happens, then how am I going to, 19 strokes up, then the turn, then 18 strokes down, and then the turn. He actually visualized this whole thing, practiced it. Amazing, right? So this is called mental contrasting, where you not only, you visualize your dream, but you also visualize whatever obstacles may come in the way, and then have a plan for everything. And there is a beautiful acronym for this too. It's called WOOP. W-O-O-P. W-O-O-P. WOOP. Okay. The first one is you make your wish. What do you wish? Okay. Then second O, it is imagine the best outcome possible. The third O, identify the obstacles that could be possible. And the P, guess what it is? The P, make a plan. Have a plan. That is, this is a different kind of visualization. and this is whoop. So when you think of your procrastination, visualize where you want to be. Think of all the obstacles. What is stopping you from doing your executing that plan? Because when we procrastinate, it's usually a fear. It's usually a fear. How will I ever manage this? What will I do? How can I make it possible? Will it be accepted? Will it not be accepted? What will my friends think if I don't go party with them? So in that comes my third technique. It is where you do not exercise willpower. Willpower takes away a lot of your energy. They have done studies on people who are dieting and who are also going through stressful situations. And they found that the more the stress, like the whole day, you're going through a lot of stress, and while they're doing their work, they're putting all goodies in front of them, chocolates and cakes and this and that and God knows what stuff. And these people, they exercise a lot of willpower. I will not eat this, I will not eat that. 100% in midnight, they are going to go and raid their refrigerators. Because that is the thing. So we do not use willpower. We use a technique which helps us to defer our gratification. So you say, I'm going to eat this chocolate, but I will eat it after some time. Things like that. So that is where your procrastination, one of the reasons why we procrastinate is because we don't want to miss, fear of missing out, FOMO. I want to party, I want to do this, I want to do this. So you say, I'll do everything. I'll watch even my best show, but I'll defer it. I'll do it after I finish this. Okay, right. Let us go on to our next thing is the mind. As I said, the boss. Okay. The mind is basically it controls everything because of the thoughts, because the mind is what produces thoughts. And as I told you before, we produce almost 60 to 80,000 thoughts in 24 hours. Yeah. And most of these thoughts are automatic. This is the thought and that is the action. It's so quick. So if we can find this gap, there's usually a gap between the stimulus and the response. And in that gap, if we can address, in that gap lies our ability to respond. So if that is, sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to ask you, what do you mean by ability to respond?
Okay, I'll explain it. So it's basically, as I told you, most of our actions are very automatic. Something just triggers it. Some event outside just triggers something in us. And so quickly the action comes on that we don't even realize what went through in the mind. Okay. If we can chart out that path, if we can say, okay, this is what happened, this is the stimulus, this is how I thought about it, and this is the action I have taken. So the stimulus and then the action. In between, if I can actually break it up and know what is the, find, then instead of reacting, I will respond. It won't be a reaction to the action. It will be a response. And the response always comes from a place of wisdom or knowledge. So you can employ some good skills there. How do you do this? How does one find that gap? And then, there are many techniques, as psychiatrists. So there is REBT, there is CBT, there's psychodrama, there's logotherapy. These are all therapies that I really believe in. But what is the best, is meditation. Meditation is something that actually can help you find this gap the fastest. So, let me explain to you a little bit about meditation. Okay. Most people, have you ever tried meditating, Ahilya?
So actually during quarantine, I started meditating almost every day. I've been a little worse about it recently, to be entirely honest. But I try to meditate at least 3 to 5 times a week for like 30
Okay.
minutes.
Wow, that is great. That is excellent, but most people, so I don't know, what has your experience been? Are you able to meditate?
It was a real struggle in the beginning. I think the hardest part was actually just like sitting still. More
Mhm.
than anything else, it was being okay with the discomfort that I felt. My body was clamming up, I wanted to move my hair from my face or scratch my elbow. And I kept having to remind my mind to focus on your breath, stop. Like, this is clear your mind, stop thinking about that meeting you missed or that crush that didn't respond to you, some nonsense that comes to your mind. Um,
Correct.
and just focus on your breath. But I think what I learned with time was that the more I actually paid attention to my breath, the easier
Mhm.
it kind of became to just clear my mind. And it's really funny that I say this, but every time I've been successful in clearing my mind, I've opened my eyes and like the trees in front of me have genuinely looked greener. I don't mean this in a funny way, and maybe it's just
True,
because my eyes are shut for 30 minutes.
no, that's actually true. That's what meditation does to you. And most people, they have this misconception about meditation, that the mind should be blank and there should be no thoughts in your head, which is crazy. That there are no